certain point, it became completely clear to me, so really very clear, that I was blaming him, and that as long as I'm taking offense in him, as also Jesus is saying, blessed is the one who is not taking offense in me, because many people actually took offense in him, including believers. As long as I'm taking offense in him because I don't understand his ways, because all come from this, I'm not understanding what's happening, that I will not have a progress in my healing, that I will not have, I will not be able to move forward in my grief journey.
Welcome to Remember God, a podcast where we practice remembering God in the midst of trials. Hi, I'm Brenda, and I help followers of Jesus recall God's miracles to successfully navigate current challenges. Welcome to Remember God, a podcast to practice remembering God in the midst of trials. If you're a follower of Jesus who's in a difficult season and finds yourself wanting to take control of the situation instead of trusting God, this is the place for you. This is where we will help you remember the places where God has shown up in the past, giving you the tools and strength to navigate through today's challenges. I'm Brenda Savanhu, author of Memorial Stones, writer, coach, and your companion on the journey of remembering what God has done. Friends, I'm excited to welcome our guest to the show today, Hadassah Treu. Hadassah is an award-winning bilingual author. She's a speaker and encourager who helps the brokenhearted partner with God through life's painful valleys. She's the author of Draw Near, How Painful Experiences Become the Birthplace of Blessings. She has co-authored many books using her voice to help believers find hope, healing, and spiritual growth in seasons of loss. Her writing has been featured on more than 70 faith-based platforms. She's also a contributor and leader in the Compel Pro community, and she's also a professional member of the Advanced Writers and Speakers Association. Welcome to the podcast, Hadassah. I'm so excited you're here.
Yes, thanks for the warm welcome. I'm also very grateful and excited to be on your podcast. I love it. I love what you're doing and the message of your podcast. So I'm really thrilled about our talk today.
Yeah, me too. So for the listeners, I was also in Compel Pro. I'm no longer a member, but um, that's how Hadassah and I got
Mhm.
connected. And so I'm excited about what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, me
Yeah.
too.
Right. So, as you know, my podcast is about remembering the places where God has shown up, which is based on my book, Memorial Stones, which is what God told the Israelites. He told them to pick up their memorial stones when they crossed the Jordan and remind the future generations of what he had done. And so that's something I've tried to practice since I became a more faithful believer. And so, as I was doing a little bit of research on you, Hadassah, I found out a few things. And one of the things that you talked about was spiritual gains and temporal losses. So, do you mind if we start there? Like, what do you mean by that?
Thank you for this question, because actually this question marks even the beginning of my writing journey.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
I started my blog in 2017, and the first ever article I wrote on my blog was about the losses and gains on the way. And in this article, I actually wanted to focus on the fact how God is the redeemer of all our losses, of all our suffering, and that when we somehow compare our earthly temporal losses to the gains that we have, to the benefits, to the blessings that we have in the Lord, they are, of course, mainly spiritual blessings. Of course, earthly too, but I'm talking about the spiritual ones, which are eternal blessings.
Hmm.
Then, of course, the blessings are much, much more than the losses. And this is something very positive. And I wrote this first blog post in March 2017, without knowing that exactly 7 years later, based on this blog post, I will write and publish a book. Actually, the publishing was in 2024. But it all started with this about the losses and gains on the way, and then I later developed this idea in much more detailed way in the book Draw Near: How Painful Experiences Become the Birthplace of Blessings.
Mm. So how did you come to that place of identifying the losses, the temporal losses and the spiritual
Yes,
gains? And just even as a human being, right? When you talk about temporal losses, they are the things in the natural. But as human beings, that's hard
yeah,
for us. So tell me
yes.
how you got to that place.
Oh, unfortunately, or fortunately, I got to this place through my own experience. In my book, I write about 13 painful experiences. We can also call it traumatic experiences because they are such like betrayal, rejection, anxiety, disillusionment, failure, pain, lost dreams, unmet expectations, and more. And as I said, unfortunately or fortunately, we can say both. I experienced all of this variety of traumas or painful experiences, of course, including also loss and grief. And the common identifier of all these experiences is actually a certain kind of loss. And I said that I started the seed for the book was planted in 2017, but actually I came with the idea and developed the whole concept in the year 2021, which was one of the hardest and most painful year in my life. This was the first year after the unexpected loss of my husband in 2020, which really turned my world upside down and upside up. And I was not sure how should I continue to live my fate out. I was really um, thrown into the darkness, so to say, into the darkness of grief, into the darkness of sorrow. And I think developing this concept helped me, and this was perhaps God's way to minister to me, helped me to start to interpret my suffering in a more helpful, more biblical way, and to express also my grief in a more helpful way. Because I wanted also to challenge myself and up with this concept to challenge myself to really see what are the concrete losses in each painful experiences. What Because we need to admit our losses, we need to accept them, we need to mourn them in order to heal. So this is always the first step. So I wanted to see what are really the losses in each experience. But then I wanted this on the left side, and then I wanted on the right side in two columns to see what did I learn through this, or how God worked through these painful experiences, what He produced in me and myself, what actually was birthed after I went through this painful experience. And
Mm,
and also to name the concrete gains which are buried in each painful experience. And
mm,
it was also a journey for me. So writing this book, a journey of healing, journey perhaps of spiritual growth, and a level of freedom. And yeah, what I really saw is also visually that after each chapter, visually, the column of the gains was really longer than the column of the losses. And what also made me an impression that most of the losses were really of temporal character, of temperate nature, while most of the gains were of eternal nature. But I need to say here, this is very important that this is not an automatic process. We can really experience this. I mean, to experience blessings and gains from our painful experiences when and only when, I need to say this, when we draw near to God and let Him heal us and work in us. I mean, if we, so to say, stay in perhaps in the first stage of grief, if we stay in our feelings of anger, if we are stuck in disappointment, if we are stuck in resentment or bitterness, then of course it's difficult to experience all this. Of course, there is always a stage in every morning, in every process of grieving. There is always this stage, initial stage, that we have these feelings and that we struggle and have our doubts and questions. But I always thought that this is not, and I'm still thinking this is not a phase or phase in which we need to stay forever. This is
Mm-hmm.
just one initial stage, which is normal for each person. And then there's the invitation to turn to God and to turn to Him not as our enemy, because perhaps if something traumatic happens, even as believers, we may think God is the guilty one and be angry with Him why He did allow certain things. But as I said, to draw to Him not as our enemy, or not to hold a grudge against Him, but really to turn to Him as our safest person, is our best friend, is our healer, and the one who wants actually to bless us and produce good out of all these situations. And I need here to say one really last thing, which is very important, because I said to produce good, all benefits, of course, all gains are good thing. But the thing is that God's good, we need to say, often does not correspond to our definition of good. And God's good, on the first place, the most important thing about God's good is the um, producing of the character and image of Christ in us. So our transformation in the image of Christ is absolutely God's number one good. I need to say this. This is important. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Um, just thinking about all that, when I'm thinking of our listener,
Yeah.
do you mind sharing with us your first experience prior to 2017?
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing with us, like, the example, what happened and what steps you went through to where you started thinking of, spiritual gains versus temporal losses?
Yes, I would say, but actually, this was not the time when I thought in depth about this losses and gains process. I think I started my writing journey and my blog writing this article, but I see it more as a framework, so to say, this
Mhm,
article. And I didn't think that I will be led on this road to prove
mhm.
that this is true, to prove it in my life, because then the actual training started, the actual spiritual training. Then the Lord allowed very difficult periods in my life, during which my faith was tested, and exactly this concept was tested. Do I live according to this concept?
Okay, so you got the concept in 2017,
Yes.
but you hadn't lived it yet.
Yes. Oh, not to the
Okay.
full, not to the full. I had one very, behind me, I had one very difficult, spiritually formative season of
Mhm.
struggling with infertility. So in this season, I struggled perhaps for 5 to 7 years. I struggled with infertility, with generalized anxiety disorder, and even I had a period of severe panic attacks. And this was behind me. These were the things that I experienced prior to writing this and starting the blog. But then starting the blog, starting my writing journey, even more difficult things came, like betrayal, rejection, unmet
Mhm.
expectations, broken dreams, and so many others. And the end was with the loss of a loved one. So the death experience was really the climax of all these experiences in 2020. Yeah.
So let's start with the infertility journey. Were you a believer then?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, or maybe let's start with your journey to becoming a believer. Do you mind starting there?
Yes, that's
Okay.
interesting because I was living in a communist country at this time.
Mm,
Bulgaria
mhm.
was a communist country where
Okay.
religion was more or less forbidden.
Mhm.
Churches were not open or working. Conversations about God were, I think, forbidden. And I was a teenager uh, before my 17th birthday. And at that time, I struggled with, I think, from today's point of view, I think it was a severe depression because I was coming from a dysfunctional home, and I also started to ask questions about the meaning of my life, the purpose of my life. So it was, I think, really, and I was struggling with suicidal thoughts, even to the
And how
point.
old were you at that time?
Short before my 17th birthday. So 16, I was 16. And then I started to pray because I think this was a prayer, or perhaps it was the cry of my heart. Um, I started to pray to God if He existed, that if there is a God, He should show Himself to me. Otherwise, I don't see any meaning in to prolong my life, so to say. So I was posing kind of an ultimatum to God or to the universe.
How did you
And
know about asking, even like even praying to God or any God? How did you know about that?
yeah, I don't know. Of course, I was on somehow on a way of spiritual journey since
Mhm.
then, and there were not so many materials to read on this topic, but there was one clue, and namely that my grandma, the mother of my father, was obviously a secret believer, a secret because I said it was forbidden. And when I was a child, she was not talking about this so much, or perhaps not talking at all. But when I was a
Mhm.
child, I was spending the lunches. So at noon, I was always there, get my lunch, and then went to school again. And there for first time, I saw actually a New Testament. It was a small, shabby book, yes, a New Testament. And I had the habit to read this. I read it, but I didn't understand anything of this. And I remember that because I was perhaps, I don't know, 10, 11 years old, something like this. But I remember still that one verse then, even then, made me a great impression, and obviously resonated with me deeply. And this verse was in Revelation. We all know this. The best verse that God will make all things new, and there will be no more suffering, no more tears, and yeah, we will live with Him forever. And
Mhm.
this somehow resonated with me then, and perhaps this was some kind of seed that was planted at this time. And when I was a teenager, I started praying this prayer, this ultimatum prayer, so to say. And then I remember that not in my class, but in my school, there were some friends, or not so close friends, but let's say friends, two boys that I don't know, out of nowhere, perhaps for me out of nowhere, just invited me to go with them to some kind of event.
So,
Yeah,
hold on a second,
yeah, I
because
hold
I'm
on.
processing all of this.
Yeah,
Um, so I'm going back to your grandma. Your
yeah,
grandma had the New Testament. It was
yes,
a shabby little book
yes,
in her house. You would go there for lunch,
yes,
during your school day when your lunch
yes,
break, and then you read it,
yes,
but you didn't understand what you were reading.
no.
Did you ever see your grandmother pray?
No, I can't recall. No.
No, but then you later on say this prayer to God, like,
Yes.
I
Yeah,
need you.
it was not a prayer, it was more like
Mhm.
a threat. I was threatening God. So if you don't show
Okay.
yourself to me, then I'm doing it. Because I struggled with suicidal thoughts at this time. And
So
so
were
I
you
was,
thinking when you were saying, God, if you don't show yourself to me,
yeah.
I'll harm myself. Were you thinking the God of this New Testament Bible I'm reading?
I was not sure. I
Oh,
think
no, you weren't
in
sure.
my
Okay.
head it was a little bit, everything was somehow mixed and confused, I think, at the time. Definitely, I
Mm,
didn't think of the biblical God. I don't know
mm,
why. I didn't think. But the interesting thing is that when they invited me to this so-called event, it turned out that this is a meeting in a Pentecostal church.
Mm,
And I heard actually there, I heard for the first time the gospel, as it is,
mhm,
as it the gospel in the purest form, so to say. And obviously, God was working in my heart in the meantime, because what I heard, I responded immediately. So really, on the spot, I responded on the spot and accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior. And on this same evening, also I was baptized with the Holy Spirit. So it happened all at once, so to say.
mm.
And from this moment on, so I was 17 years old then, my journey with God began.
So what I'm hearing, Hadassah,
Yeah.
is that um, your first memorial stone
Yes.
was going to your grandmother's house and actually
Yes.
seeing that Bible, that
Yes.
New Testament
Yes.
Bible.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's where the seed was planted.
Yes.
And even though you didn't know what you were reading,
Mm-hmm.
you came to a place to where you asked God to show himself to you.
Yes.
And I think that's really important. I was listening to a podcast the other day that talked.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about evangelism, and the person was sharing that they typically don't present the gospel, but what they do is
Mm-hmm.
the person whom they're having a conversation with, they say to them, "Ask God to make Himself real to you."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
This is
typically,
a
like,
wonderful prayer. A wonderful
yeah,
prayer. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, okay, so that's your first Memorial Day. Okay, carry on,
Yeah.
carry on.
Absolutely. Yeah, then actually, this is my testimony. From there on, my journey started with the Lord, and I also had periods in my life when I, so to say, left the narrow road. This was in my students' years when I went to the university, and then changed the environment, met other people, and so on. So I slowly drifted from the Lord. But then
Mhm,
again, in my 30s, there was a strong yearning to come back, so to say, restore my fellowship and communion with Him,
mhm.
which I did. And then from this moment on, yeah, so I think I'm on a steady course with Him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great. So
yeah,
your husband, how old were you when you met him?
yeah,
And, was he a believer?
yeah. This is an interesting story too. My husband, I met him when I was 28 years old. So I was
Mhm,
still not completely with the Lord. I mean, I was still on in the process of getting away from Him, not in the process of return, when I met him. And he was not a believer at this time.
mm,
But nevertheless, he was not a believer, but nevertheless, I was completely 100% sure that this was the man to marry.
mhm,
100% sure. This is also an interesting story because I'm a Bulgarian and he is an Austrian, was an Austrian. And I wrote a project. I was working in a educational organization, and I wrote one project, international project for education, and he was the representative of this organization in Austria. And we were preparing the first project meeting in Bulgaria, and then he sent me his presentation for the meeting, and I saw his picture, and I saw his name under the
mhm,
picture. And the thought that came to my mind was my name with his family name. So I pronounced my name with his family name. And I thought
mm,
this is completely weird and strange. I thought you are crazy. Why are you thinking such things? And this is not, yeah, really crazy, crazy thought. But the thing is, when he came in this project meeting, it was about a week. So 6 days we were together working and also having free time. And what happened is that at the end of these 6 days, so at the sixth day, we both admitted that we fell in love with each other. So this was really love at the first glance. I never believed in such thing, but it happened.
Hmm.
And then we started a relationship from distance for about 2.5 years. We were separated. So me living in Bulgaria, he living in Austria. And then, yeah, we decided to marry and that I will live in Austria together with him. So we married in 2005. And he came to Christ and gave his life to him in the year 2014.
So that when you saw his face and you saw
Yes,
his name and then you put your name with his last name,
yeah.
where did that come from? Like, have you looked back to think about where did that idea come from? Was it a voice? Like, what was it, a
No, it was
thought?
such a strong sensation. I can't explain it.
Mm,
It was as if
mm.
somebody is talking directly to you. I mean, a very strong internal sensation. And there was one more sensation during these first days. And the sensation was that when I looked at him, another very strong internal sensational thought came. And this thought was, this is the person I want to be the father of my children. And this thought was never crossing up to now my mind. I had unfortunately other relationships because I said this was exactly in the period when I drifted away from the Lord. So I had other relationships, but I never ever thought for a person that I want this person to be a father of my children. This was the
Mm.
second thought that I had about him. And yeah, the interesting thing was that he had, I mean, I don't know, perhaps it happened very often, but for me, this was kind of miracle that two persons are falling in love simultaneously from the first glance. I mean, they're seeing themselves for first time from two different countries, from two different nations, and these internal sensations that I had. And even if that he was not a believer, I was sure that this is the person who would be my husband, as it later happened. Yeah.
So when you reflect on that now, do you think, God, that was you talking to me?
I'm absolutely sure because I think God brought me in his life to turn him to Jesus, especially having in mind his premature death, and God did a lot of healing in his life. And of course, he brought him into my life because he was in many, many ways an enormous blessing for me. Um, I think this was for me the best person I could wish for to be my husband. I mean, he provided for me an environment in which I could heal, with which I could grow and strengthen my relationship with the Lord. And for this, I'm really extremely grateful to the Lord that He brought us together in this certain period of time, and we both were a blessing to each other in different ways.
So even before he was a believer, he was supporting you in your faith.
Yes, 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 yes. And he was asking questions, and yeah, of course, then he had quite different opinions because all the problem came from the fact that he was um, raised Catholic and he studied in a Catholic school and in Austria, and the things he saw there actually. Made him say no to the faith because I mean he didn't tell me details, but he told me that he saw an extreme hypocrisy between what was taught there and the behavior of the teachers, which were Catholic priests. Also, there were some other cases involved in the school, and this, I think, as many people, he identified the Catholic Church or the Catholic priests with God Himself. Somehow, these two were together in his mind, and that's why yeah, he didn't like this God. Let's say it like this: he didn't like the Catholic God. This was not the God he wanted to put his faith in.
Oh, he didn't like the Catholic God. Okay. Because he was equating the God that you were worshiping, he was equating him
Yeah.
with the 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 abuses he saw in the Catholic
Yes.
Church.
So it took
Okay.
a lot of talking, not to show him that this is we are talking about different God, but it was not just talking. I think to a certain point, I even stopped talking because when you talk, it can be also irritating for the other person. I think the way I lived. And the way our relationship developed was much stronger testimony to him than any words that I could have used. So this was definitely,
Mm.
yeah,
So this is another memorial stone.
a
The
big
the
memorial stone.
Yeah, right? Like
Yeah,
the love at first sight that you guys fell in love
yeah,
within that short time,
yes,
and then the impact that you and your faith had on him, and then the
yes,
impact he had on you just on how he loved you, how he took care of you, and
yeah.
even just supporting your faith even though he, wasn't there yet.
Yes, he supported me in every way. I mean, not only my faith. This was a person who gave me a complete freedom in my choices, and he supported every of my initiatives. I mean, about work, jobs, what I want to do, how we do the everyday life. He was really very, very supportive and very responsible and caretaking, and this is what I missed a lot now.
Mm, yeah, yeah. So that's a good segue to go into um the tragedy
Yeah,
of losing him. Do you mind going
yeah.
into that?
Yeah, this was really a tragedy because the interesting thing is perhaps this is also a memorial stone. Is that in May 2020, I remember a moment. Simply, I remember a moment when I felt extremely, extremely happy to the verge. I mean, we were sitting in a garden. I was putting my head on his legs. I was staring at the sky. We were under a tree. I was looking at the tree, and I was thinking, feeling, and thinking, and saying to God, "I've never been so happy in my life. I mean." I'm so happy that I can't imagine that I could be more happy than this. I mean, you gave me so much. You healed me. You healed Thomas. You healed our marriage. I'm so extremely happy. I have everything that I ever wanted. I felt this, and this was really a very special moment in to remember. I simply remember it as a moment. And yeah, this was in May. And then at the end of June, he was emergency taken to the hospital. So 1 month later, for an emergency heart surgery, which went actually very well.
Hmm.
But after that, after the surgery, there were complications. He went 2 more times in surgery, in two medically induced comas he was. And from the second coma, he never actually woke up. And these were the heaviest 2.5 weeks in my life when he was in the hospital. And I was agonizing at home, praying to God 24/7 that he spares his life. But he didn't spare his life and didn't heal him. And I think this was the biggest blow that I ever experienced in my life at this time. And
Yeah.
actually, up to now in my life, I would say.
And so this was during COVID, so
Yes, exactly.
everyone was quarantined,
Yes,
right?
yes. These two,
So
yeah.
how did you did you have support like during this time in terms of prayer or even your family? Like how did you go through this with your husband in the
I
hospital and then everything progressing?
I didn't have so much support I mean, face to face support. This was impossible
Mhm. Right.
because his family was not living in our city. Actually, his family consisted of um, a couple of persons, and they were in different cities in Austria. And my family was in Bulgaria. We have got a couple of friends. I got a lot of support online, I need to say, from
Okay,
my
good.
online friends, also on talking on the phone with all my friends, with my family, but face to face, really, a real physical presence, this was not
No, you
possible.
couldn't because of the
No,
quarantine. Yeah.
yeah, and even I was thankful to God, and even now I see that it was a miracle that in these 2 weeks and a half from the hospital, they allowed me exactly 2 times in these 2 weeks and a half to visit him, because even
Mm,
this was not allowed. So I could see him at least 2 times for sure, and yeah, difficult, very difficult.
mhm. So what were you were praying, he's in the hospital, the surgery goes fine, but then he
Yes.
has complications after. You're at home, you're praying, you're praying. What were you believing as you were praying?
Yeah, I was surely believing that God would heal him. I even
Mhm.
didn't let this thought that he would die. This was a thought I was not allowing myself to think, so to say, and that's why it came as such a shock, because till the last moment I was having an extreme hope and believe that because for me it didn't make sense, the whole thing. But this is what I that's why I explained this story. The thought about this moment in May, because I thought, okay, God brought us so far. Obviously, He have a future for us if He brought us so far and did such great things in our lives. So for me, it didn't make sense that exactly now, I mean, He'll take His life prematurely. It didn't make any sense to me, so that's why I didn't allow this thought at all. So it
Right.
was a great shock.
So how did you process that with God?
Oh, I'm still processing it, I need to say.
Mhm.
It will be now in the beginning of July, exactly 6 years
Mhm.
since his death. And I need to say, I'm still on the grief
Mm.
journey. I'm still processing this. And on this grief journey, of course, there were a lot of memorial stones, a lot of, too many. I will share some of the major ones, perhaps,
Yeah, please.
perhaps in the beginning, because the
Mm.
beginning is always the most difficult, and then perhaps the memorial stones when things really shifted, or when there was a change in my grief journey. So the first memorial stone, this is, I think, an interesting testimony, perhaps, to the listeners, happened on the day when I saw him alive for the last time. Of course,
Mm.
I didn't know that I see him for last time alive. Yes, I didn't know, of course, but God knew surely. So on the way home, I had a very very heavy bad feeling. So a feeling as if my heart will break. I mean, very very heavy feeling. And then God gave me three visions on the sky. I mean, from the clouds, painted with clouds. I really then made the picture of two of them, because these were amazing pictures on the sky made from clouds. I don't know if only I saw this, but definitely not, because I sent the photo to my sister too. And the first was two wings, so two wings made from clouds. So really, all the feathers you could see, really, so enormous wings
Mhm.
in the sky. And immediately the phrase came to my mind: angel wings, angel wings. And of course, I knew angel wings are a sign or symbol of God's presence. This is definitely so. But I also think and then later thought that they are also symbol of death, because the presence of angels can be also connected with the heavenly kingdom. So it taking a person, so to say, the presence of God, not only the presence of God, but taking someone in the presence of God. And of course, at this time, I didn't think so, but later I'm sure that this was a way for God to prepare me somehow. This was the first. The second I saw in the sky, while I was walking hours and hours, was two figures of two birds, and I thought these are eagles. I don't know how I thought that's eagles, but this is what came to me: one large eagle and one small eagle. And of course, I thought, okay, this is me and God. got the big eagle and me the small eagle, and the verse that immediately came to me, and this is a light verse for me. I am still holding on to this, is Isaiah 40, the last verse. Those who wait on the Lord will renew their
Good.
strength, and God gives
Yeah.
strength to the weary, and they will soar on like eagles. And I mean,
Yeah.
this was really
They'll run and not
uh,
grow weary. They'll walk and not
exactly,
faint. Yeah.
exactly. And he was obviously preparing me. And the third symbol that I saw, or so picture from clouds, I don't have a firm explanation for this. I mean, what this could mean. This was so the contours of a human face, so just a human face. I'm thinking that this perhaps symbolizes the presence of Jesus, or Jesus himself with me in the grief journey, but I'm still not. Or perhaps let's say the Son of Man, because human face, the Son of Man, the one who experienced all our sorrows, all our weaknesses. He knows what pain is because he experienced it in his body. But yeah, this was on the day when I saw him alive for the last time, and then on the day after he died, so on the first day of my loss, of my grief journey, I opened my Bible because I mean this was my habit, and it doesn't matter how I feel. Every morning I start with my Bible and with prayer. This is simply uh, part of me. And I opened my Bible, and then I read this verse. I will read this verse now
Please.
from Job 23, 16, 17. So the verse is God has made my heart faint, the Almighty has terrified me. Yet I'm not silenced by the darkness, by the thick darkness that covers my face. And this verse spoke directly to my heart because I took at least two things from this verse this first day. The first is that God acknowledged my pain, my darkness. That He knew very well what is happening to me now. This was the first thing, and the second part of the verse: "The darkness will not silence me." So this gave me the first seeds of hope because uh, the darkness will not silence me would mean for me not only that I will survive, but most importantly, that my faith will survive. Because this is a blow that can shake somebody's faith, and it shook mine. This I need to say. And this gave me this assurance, and that God is fully in control, and that I will survive this. I mean, it seemed impossible on the first day of losing my husband, but I somehow took hold of this, took hold that he was saying this to me. This was my second memorial stone. Memorial stone three in my grief journey was in the presence of persons, of human help, so to say, in the first days, weeks, and months after his death, because I was not able really to take care of practical things, or to live a
Mhm.
normal life. So God really sent people, but this is why I think this is a memorial stone, because the interesting thing was that he often brought people who were not the ones I would expect. So even strangers to me, or who are strangers to this day to me. For example, let me give one example. My husband was talking often about one of his colleagues, a woman who he befriended, and I knew her just from him explaining him about her. But I met her for first time on the funeral. And then this woman actually was checking very regularly on me. She offered her help. She even helped me with packing and with a lot of stuff. She talked about a lot about Thomas. I talked with her, and somehow we uh, we had this connection after he was dead. And I was really I was really amazed how God brought this person exactly to help me at this time. And for example, neighbors. I had neighbors on one floor above us, and we were just greeting each other. But after his death, this was a young family, and they were so helpful and supportive. When I felt extremely alone, I mean, really physically alone, extremely in my apartment, they invited me to them. We shared lunches, dinner, we talked, and this was an enormous blessing for me. So they were really persons who got sent exactly at this time for this moment.
So how, I think sometimes as women, it's hard for us to receive help. So how were you open to receive the help?
I was very open because I needed it. I
Mm,
knew that my condition is very bad. I mean, I felt emotionally, physically, and perhaps spiritually, I felt extremely weak, and it was difficult to move through the day to do what I needed to do, and I had a lot to do because I decided quite soon after the death of my husband that I need to come back to Bulgaria, so that I could not longer live there in Austria alone,
mm.
in the
Why
apartment.
is that? Is it because of the community you had in Bulgaria?
Yes, mainly
Yeah.
the community, but of course, purely emotionally, it was hard for me to live in the same apartment, in the same rooms where I was with him, and being alone. This was really very hard emotionally for me. And the second was really the community because, um, as I said, his family was not there to support me. I mean, his brother was in Wien, his father was living somewhere else, and they were not in the same city. I had just a couple of friends, and I thought, no, I need larger community. I really need help. I need people's presence. I need help. So I felt this very strong urge that I needed to move back, and this required a lot of work and a lot of
Hmm.
organization. Yeah, so I needed help, and I didn't have any problem to ask for help for the
Mm,
simple reason I needed it. I
you
needed it
needed it.
badly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Hadassah, having gone through something so difficult, and you had this picture in your mind that, when you were under that tree with your husband,
Yeah.
you're like, this is the happiest day of my life. Our life is going to be incredible.
Mm,
We're going to have children. We're going to do
yes.
this. We're going to do that. So, after having gone through this really tragic and traumatic loss, how is it that you're still a follower of Jesus?
This is the real question, isn't it?
Hmm.
Yes. I had my phase of, let's say, shaking of faith and disillusionment of faith, I call it, because this was the phase when I was asking a lot of questions. Surely, I mean, I never lost my faith that God is a good God, that He loves me. This I never lost this faith. But I was
Why is
questioning.
that? Do you mind sharing? Why didn't you lose your faith that God is a good God?
Yeah, let me finish the sentence because
Okay.
I didn't lose the faith that He's a good God, but
Hmm.
I lost my faith or questioned my faith is he if he's a fair and just God. So I
Oh,
had
okay.
I had this so to say these two things, how to reconcile them, his goodness and his justice, because to me it was unfair. I couldn't find any reasoning why my husband died at this time in this way. To me this was completely unfair, let's say like this. This
Hmm.
is how it felt, and that's why I question God's fairness. I question His justice, so to say. Not so much His goodness, but His fairness and His justice. Actually, some of the questions that I asked were, um, could I still trust Him when He's leading me in the valley of the shadow of death? Does He still love me? And even the more important question, do I truly know Him or just follow my ideas about Him? This is a very important question.
Hmm.
And is it safe for me to trust him? Is it safe for me as a person when he does what he does? So without explanations and without Yeah, without giving any reasoning or any obvious reason that makes sense. And these were these questions, and this was the struggle which I think I led with him for a year and a half. Like Job, Job became my friend. I need to say this time. I was reading a lot in the book of Job because I mean I can't compare with Job, but I can compare my struggle with his, because he also struggled to keep his faith in God, to keep his trust in Him, and of course he had his why questions too. Yeah, and uh, I actually, perhaps the key is in the fact that I never never drew back from God. I never stepped back. I never turned my back to Him. I mean, I was coming to Him. Doesn't matter how. I mean, angry, with doubts, with accusations, let's say like this. But I was coming to Him. I was bringing all this in His presence. I was reading the word every day. As I said, this is a habit of mine. I mean, I feel naked if I don't read my Bible in the morning, if I'm not journaling, if I'm not praying. I feel naked. I can't start the day. I think this is the habit of many, many years simply. And I couldn't break this habit for good. So I think this was the key. And here's the shift. Then at a certain point, three shifts happen, or three things happen, three mini, or perhaps not so mini, memorial stones happen that actually helped me to start to change my perspective and to start to heal. And these three stones were, first, this was my decision. This was really a decision that was a separation line, marked a separation line. And the decision was um, that I would stop blaming God for the death of my husband, and I would never ever hold a grudge against him because of this death. So this was the decision. I'm holding this decision since this moment on. I think this was 4 or 5 years ago. So never to blame God about this and never holding a grudge against him. Because this was actually creating the distance between him and me. And when I took this decision, this distance starting to melt, because it was a distance created in me from me. This was not a distance that God created, so to
So,
say.
how did you arrive there? How did you come to realize that you blaming God was creating distance?
I don't know exactly how. I'm sure this was an everyday leading of the Spirit through what I was reading,
Hmm.
through what other people were telling to me. And at certain point it became completely clear to me, so really very clear, that I was blaming him, and that as long as I'm taking offense in him, as also Jesus is saying, blessed is the one who is not taking offense in me, because many people actually took offense in him, including believers. um as long as I'm taking offense in him because I don't understand his ways, because all come from this, I'm not understanding what's happening, that I will not have a progress in my healing, that I will not be able to move forward in my grief journey. And this was really a very, very clear thought. And of course, this thought provoked the decision that I needed to do this. This is depending on me. This is not something God would do for me. I need to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that, and what I hope the listeners take from
Yeah.
this is that you were in a place where you're blaming God for your husband's passing,
Yes.
but he had given you the memorial stone of community, right? And so you
Yes.
were still engaging with community, even though it was
Yes.
online. People were
Yes.
praying with you, talking with
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah.
Um, you were also engaging with your memorial stone of your spiritual discipline. And we can even take that
Yes.
all the way back to your grandmother reading that New
Yes.
Testament when you didn't understand, right? So you
Yes.
kept going, you stayed in your word, you
Yes.
stayed praying, and
Yes.
you continued to have time with God, but you were
Yes.
also having time in community with
Yes.
others.
Yes.
And I think the reason I want to make that point, Hadassah, is
Yeah.
for the listener is because um, sometimes, and this is something that I've learned
Mhm.
myself, is that when you're not clear exactly what God's doing, where you are,
Mhm.
maybe
Mhm.
you're
Mhm.
angry, or maybe you've taken
Yeah.
offense, or maybe you're depressed. But when we continue with these things that He's already given us, when we stay
Mhm.
engaging in our word, and sometimes if you can't even physically read it, then just play the
Yeah.
audio. And then when we stay engaged in community, eventually we'll hear what He's saying because He's
Yes.
speaking from those
Yes.
places. There was an interview I did with Kathy Garland that released a few weeks ago. She said, when God is silent, sometimes he's just playing hide and seek with you. So look for him in a different place. So if you were only finding him in um reading your Bible, but then now also look for him when you go for a walk,
Mhm.
or look for him when you're having a conversation with your friend, or
Yeah.
look for him when you're journaling, or look
Yeah.
for him when you're doing something creative. But I think that's really important, um, that we're listening for God in all of these
Mhm.
different places, even if you said, I don't know how I quite arrived there, but all
Yeah.
of these different pieces, but then you
Yes.
mentioned those pieces, and all of those different pieces helped you arrive there
Yes.
to make the decision that, God, I'm not going to blame you anymore, because this blame is creating distance between
Yes.
us. Yeah.
Yes. And you're absolutely right. I actually now when I think even how I'm living my life now and then I'm actually looking for him in all the places when I think because so often happened that God spoke to me through a line in a movie or through a line in a
Hmm.
conversation or in during a walk, as you said. I mean, I think I was so desperate at this time that I was really alert somehow to hear from him, to understand from all possible places. I was looking him in all possible places, and I think uh of course, he is strongly present in the word. This is, of course, we need to say this because he talks most clearly from in his word. But he's God, and he can talk through everything and through the stones even. He can
Right?
talk.
Even a
So
donkey.
absolutely, yeah, through a donkey. So it's when we seek for him, surely he will not remain silent. So this is
Mhm.
definitely true. And I just want to add to this first decision, there were two more that came that brought the shift.
Yes,
And
yes,
the
please.
the, the second was the moment when I asked him to turn my pain into purpose and
Mhm.
that my today's pain would be somebody else's gain. I mean,
Mm.
I think I read this somewhere, and this so much resonated with me that I was sure that this is the stage that God want me to really consciously and willingly to present my pain to Him and say, okay, this is it, take it. I don't want my suffering to be in vain. Please turn it into purpose and turn it into somebody else's gain, not just my gain, but to
Mm.
somebody else's gain that could really minister to people who perhaps go through the same similar struggles. This was the second thing. And the third thing was, and actually, the third thing is something that I'm doing every day. So I need to do this every day. And the third thing is this when I decided that I don't need understanding and knowledge to trust Him completely. So this is the third thing.
Yes.
Yes, and the most
Yes.
important thing, the most important thing. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, like, oh gosh, I've been through that. It's like, "Okay, Lord, I have to
yeah,
surrender this need for
yeah,
understanding
yeah,
to be able to trust you." Like,
yes,
yeah,
yeah,
that's freeing when you come to,
absolutely.
embrace that.
Yes, yes,
Yeah. Wow. Well, Hadassah, I feel like we've got a whole lot more to talk about, but we're at
yeah,
time. So,
yes,
why don't you just share with the listener anything else you'd like them to know? And then I would love it if you could close us in prayer.
yes. I want to share something very short, perhaps the essence or the major takeaway I would like the listeners to take from all this. Really, for me, this is the main thing. And this thing is God's presence is everything. This is everything, and we need to stay connected to Him. We need to abide in Him because His presence changes and transforms everything. Our grief, losses, darkness, ministries, souls, lives. This is His presence. So let's make His presence the center of our lives. This is my message, which I
Yes.
want to
I love that.
to
Let's
share with the
let's make
listeners.
God's presence the center of our lives.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And of course, I would be honored to pray for the listeners, and this will be also the main thing in my prayer. So, Lord, we come to you, and I'm thankful for all the people who listen to this interview, who listen to this podcast, and who will listen in the future. I'm praying for all of them. Please take our words and take them and let your Holy Spirit minister to each heart through these words and speak to each individually and according to the need, according to the purpose. Lord, I pray that everybody who listens really take you seriously and make your presence the focus of their lives. Take you seriously and stay connected with you. So really make us long for your presence, make us desire your presence above all, and make us trust you, especially when we don't understand, especially when we have questions, especially when we have doubts. So we want to trust you, Lord. Bless our listeners today. And I pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Hadassah. Um, Listeners, I would love for you to connect with Hadassah. She has a book called Draw Near: How Painful Experience Has Become the Birthplace of Blessings, which I will link in the show notes. And she also has a blog. So, Hadassah, tell us your blog address,
Yes.
social media
Yes.
handle, so that the listeners can connect with you.
Yes, my blog is called onthewaypg.com, and I'm very, very honored that my blog is for 2 years, 2025, and this year in the 100 top list of faith blogs ranked by Feedspot, which is really, a present from the Lord. On the way, bg.com is the blog. And I have two different handles on social media. One is Hadassah Treu, my name. With this handle, you can find me on Instagram. And with the handle on the way, bg, you can find me on Pinterest, on Facebook, and on Twitter, or X at the moment.
Great. Yeah. And I'll make sure to link all of those in the
Yes,
show notes.
thank you.
Hadassah, thank you so much. This was great.
Thank you. I enjoyed a lot our conversation.
If this episode resonated with you, there are two things I'd like you to consider. Number one, rate and review the show. This will help other listeners find the show and get the same inspiration and encouragement you got from it. And number two, I would love for you to share this episode with someone you love and someone you think could benefit from hearing this particular episode. Also, if you would like to connect with me outside of this podcast, you can find everything related to me on my website, brendasavanhu.com. There you can find my social media links if you'd like to follow. You can find a link to sign up for an email so that you can get weekly encouragement to your inbox. And you can find information about my book and coaching sessions. So friends, thank you again so much for listening to this episode, and thank you for considering sharing it with your friends. See you next time.